World Mental Health Day, and this year's theme is emergencies in mental health. The focus is on crisis response and access to care. In India, and this is a big number, over 19 crore people live with mental disorders. 1 in 10 adults currently suffer from a condition. Nearly 85% do not receive any formal care. The scale of the crisis is clear. In 2022, India reported 1.71 lakh suicides. Suicide is now the leading cause of death for young Indians aged 15 to 29. And so today we must have this conversation and take this conversation forward in ways more than one. Access remains the biggest barrier. Metros report double the mental morbidity compared to rural areas. Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities struggle with a shortage of psychiatrists and counselors. Stigma still stops people from seeking help. The government has indeed taken steps. We have seen 24/7 counselling being offered through telecounselling in more than 20 languages. It's already handled over 14 lakh calls, but the gap between need and delivery is still very huge. Today, we'll not just focus on what must be done, what more needs to be done to ensure that mentally we're moving forward as a nation, but we'll also want to send out little reminders of the tools out there that we must all be aware of, because there's nothing greater than showing up for ourselves. And on that note, we introduce our first guest joining us this morning. She's the co-founder and CEO of Happydemic. She's spoken openly about her personal battle with depression and how music became a form of healing. Radhika Mukherjee joins us to share her journey and her work bringing music as therapy into people's lives. And for all those unaware still, most of you know this, but she's also the very famous, everyone's favorite singer in the country, Shaan's wife too. Radhika, thank you so much for being with us this morning, and thank you for taking out the time.
You know, I was hearing your introduction and on the healthcare systems that we have and what needs to be done. And I think it was so important to address this, not only because, I've been through it. Also, there is no, I think if you talk about equalizer that you have in life, other than death, I think it's definitely mental health. You can have it all and still feel you have nothing. And, I've been through it. The first things that people came up to me and, said was, I think my family, the elders of my family, first thing they said is, "Kyun bola?" I think that is a very big thing that happens. People will think there's something wrong and all of that. And the other very strong question that used to come out was that, "Oh, beta, shadi mein kuch gadbad hai." And it was, not even that. It's just that, we have to understand that depression is not only triggered by external circumstances, it can also be very internal. Like, I just woke up one day, and if I have to put it in a very layman's word, it would be like I did not see colors in life, and there is a knot in your stomach which is unexplainable. It's just that I'm so lucky that Shaan understood it. He was my biggest strength and support at that time. My kids supported it. My older one, Soham, he's 23. My younger one is 20, Mahi. They not only supported it, I think they went that extra length to make me understand and accept the fact that it's okay not to be okay. I think that is very important to know.
You spoke of family support and how that is one of the biggest contributors to what makes or breaks a story, a person who's dealing with all these challenges. Radhika ji, Shaan has been very vocal and he's been very humble about the fact that right at the beginning of when, you possibly opened up about this or he figured it out on his own, he didn't quite understand the concept. He didn't quite understand why is it when everything is okay in your marriage, like you said, on different fronts, including your professional front, how can this happen to people? How did you as a couple go about that conversation and move past that phase of understanding more clearly?
I think, more than going as a couple, I think we went across as a family. I was very, very open to tell my kids that, hey, you know what, mama is not functioning at 100. Mama is going to function at 60. And this time, mama needs your help. I think that happened. And I think also what also happened was that, we reached out at the right time to therapists. And I think, just getting someone to tell you that, like I said, it's okay not to feel okay, and sit with that uncomfortable feeling, process it, understand it. It's very important first you to understand what is happening in your system, your nervous system, because it's constantly in a flight mode or a fight mode or, a pawn mode or, stuff like that. So first, you just to get your center and your grounding was very important. And honestly, I can't speak for everyone because everyone's journey and experience is so different. So here, I only speak for myself. So what I did first was, I learned how to ask for help. I think that was very important. Second was that I was very fortunate to get that help. And the third was a lot of self awareness and a lot of self work that I had to do. I'm now 3 years, completely okay. Touch wood, I'm off medication and anti anxiety pills and all of that. And it happened is because I think early understanding and acceptance is very important. I think the biggest problem of that is, and we're an urban family. We've been born and brought up in Mumbai, and even for my family, older people of my family, to tell me कि लोग क्या कहेंगे was, you know,
It's
made me
heartbreaking.
realize that yeah, you can be living wherever you are in Mumbai, and you can have the best education, but that stigma that is attached to it needs to go away. And that's why I've been very vocal about it. I've been very frank about it. I've told my kids are very frank about it. In fact, when my older one Soham went abroad to study, I think the first thing I went there was look up for a therapist. I said, you may not need it, you may need it, but you just need to know that you have help. And I think we as parents should make it so normal, normalize this conversation of having therapists at home to our kids. I've gone ahead and I've learned therapy myself. So now I'm a certified therapist. But I do not give therapy to my kids because I think it's very important the kids get their own person.
Yeah. So, you go out there, have those important conversations, even if and when you're not in need of one such conversation. So be open to it, because you may just figure out there's lots more that needs to be unlocked in your mind, in your heart, deep down somewhere. Radhika, how do you ensure emotional well-being as a family? Because we're living in mad times. There's of course an additional pressure of being so up close with the entertainment industry. So that's one other aspect to it. But otherwise as well, the digital age that we're living in, there is madness all around us. How do you collectively as a family go about it?
Like I've said, I've been very, very frank with the kids on conversations, and that, mental health is very, very important. I think, your mind space, be very careful of what you have up there, because what the mind says, the body will do. So I think because they've seen me go through it and normalize it so much, they're absolutely, absolutely, we have very open conversations in the house, especially when, my older one, like I said, Soham, he's a music producer. My younger one, Mahi, he's a singer. He's in fact having his stuff going on, as in release of an album and all of that. And the first thing I told him is that, if this is giving you anxiety, let me know, because there are ways we can approach this. Of course, we're extremely fortunate that we're in a house that is very musical. So there's always music playing in the house, and I think that is a form as a family that we have developed as grounding, because it just helps us ground. So every morning, I make sure that there is a certain frequency that is played in the house, and and our culture is such that you'll find most of these frequencies, musical frequencies that ground you in our shlokas itself. So I make sure that and there is a, a form of self me time is what we call it at home, where you just sit in silence, where you sit in silence with yourself. Because not everyone is good at meditating, not everyone can take the technique of meditating. So you just sit in silence with yourself and you just let your thoughts run. And when you keep letting your thoughts run, and you keep telling the ones that are not required, hey, I don't need you right now, you can go away. I don't need you right now, you can go away. So when you sit with yourself, you'll understand what we call is the monkey mind, how monkey your mind is, like how much it jumps from one thing to the other. And you literally tame the monkey. So that's how you sit. But obviously, this is a technique that we have done at home, and this is what we believe. I have put out there, and the kids have adapted it. But each one can, definitely find out their me time. And when you find that your mind is there's just too much of monkeying in the mind, like your monkey mind is going crazy, is when you can actually then also realize that, okay, you know what, there are things that need to be addressed. But I think
And
first
mastering
sitting
each
in
of these
silence.
techniques also takes its own sweet time. So you got to be patient through and through is another important reminder that must be sent out.
I mean, it took me 4 years to understand, these techniques. But I think discipline to it, and knowing that, it's going to help, because healing doesn't happen, in an upward. Neither does it happen in a spiral. Healing happens in circles. But the beauty of it is that, that a circle that is this large, like say probably as big as the mehendi that I have today, will keep reducing in size.
Yeah.
With these techniques. So you may bounce down, but you also bounce back faster. So that is the beauty of learning these techniques in hand, and having these tools to empower you. So I always feel, and I always have noticed that earlier when I used to dip, it used to take me 2 days, to bounce back up. Now with the how I've equipped myself with tools, I now bounce back up in half an hour, in 30 minutes.
And there's a whole sense of achievement that comes with that, isn't it? I mean, it's splendid, the journey that each of us go through in so many beautiful ways. Each of those challenges we overcome come with their own sense of rejuvenation and achievement. I also want to ask you, Radhika ji, about Happydemics, because your stories are incomplete without this big initiative of yours. How much of it, the thought behind it, was also to do with healing?
More than healing, I think it came off from a point of dignity of work. A lot of artists, they are fantastic. I mean, the talent that we have in India is, it's moving. It's crazy. The kind of talent I have been, noticing, seeing, and all of that. Very few make it, up to that tier. What used to happen is a lot of artists coming out of reality shows, saw this great glitz and glamour, and then it just went silent. And that silence can resonate with you in many ways. Sometimes it can be a belly in the fire, fire in the belly, sorry. And sometimes it can really spiral you down into the fire. So I said, there is fantastic talent and there is great demand for music, because I think, you may hear people saying, oh, I don't like swimming, I don't like trekking. You really have not come across anyone in life who says, I don't like music. And so keeping that ethos in mind, knowing that there is so much of need and, want for music, and, and strangely, we only use music in an entertainment format. We've not actually, really gone and opened up the power of music. And I use the word power here, which I very rarely use, is because it has a great ability to synchronize you and to afloat you. So I think that is the power of music. And so in one point I saw these artists that we have in India who want work and need work. And on the other side, I saw a great demand for music, and the power of music, unlocking that power of music. And that's where, we decided to start Happydemic. We're a platform that supports artists We have around 3,600 artists across 560 cities in India. And the only vision and mission of Happydemic is to give artists great work, work that they enjoy doing, work that helps them grow, while we also upskill them with different programs that we have for them.
Okay.
We've seen fantastic, transformations in artists who have done very well, who have, started off with the platform and then gone on to bigger things in life.
But just the
we don't
fact,
find
Radhika ji, and
contracts.
I must come in with a compliment here, just the fact that you thought that it's not just somebody who's won a trophy, but the runner-ups too, the other contestants participating in other competitions should also be given as much of an opportunity, because they were no less. Maybe luck didn't favor them or their time
Correct.
wasn't right. So the thought there is so beautiful. But speaking of the music industry, and I want to end on this very important question, Radhika. Have you seen a shift, a clear shift in how the music industry or the film industry is supporting emotional well-being over the last few years?
Okay, I'm going to be I don't know whether I'll be love or hated here, but, to be honest, a lot of songs that are coming out is with a lot of angst, I feel. Dard wale, you don't, agar milna nahi hua, I will do this to myself, I will do that to myself. So I think, and we also say this, while we practice, that a lot of love bombing that we call typically comes out of, these, a lot of glitz and glamour. And why only movies? I think even novels are so, love-centric and so... and when I talk about love, I'm talking about that, crazy, passionate, madness kind of love that you can't do without and you will kill yourself without. I think, there is a lot of corruption that happens from there, corruption of the mind, because, you kind of prerequisite
False idea, a false idea or
idea.
impression of what
You kind of prerequisite what a love should look like, but it's so different. The journey is so different for everyone. So I think happier songs is definitely what we need. But if you talk about how the music industry is functioning these days, I think it's to what I know of. I'm not an integral part of the I don't of the music industry, but I think the artists these days now are very well aware of issues, and just not mental health issues, but other issues could be, philosophical or environmental, internal or external. So they're all aware of that, and I'm in their own way, they're definitely doing things, concerts towards that and things to help reach a broader audience.
Okay, lovely. So would it be correct to then say we need more of Tanha 2.0s to just keep these wonderful conversations going and not really get into that aggressive love bombing as you point out?
I think we need more of Bhuljas also.
Acha. Okay, lovely. Radhika ji, thank you. It's wonderful having you with
so
us
much.
on this very special day. Join us
Thank
with
you.
all those interesting talking points we're going to keep in our minds for the rest of the day and perhaps the next few days as well. But speaking of the right tools to stay mentally fit, research also shows meditation improves mind and body balance. Anchoring yourself within is an idea gaining traction among younger generations too. Helplines are a strong start, but awareness and early detection remain crucial. Policy must match the scale of the crisis on ground zero. And large groups practicing meditation have been shown to reduce stress markers. Collective practice can most certainly create ripple effects across communities. And to take that conversation forward, tools that address mental health. We are being joined by Dr. Tony Nader. He is a neuroscientist, physician, and most importantly, Global Head of Transcendental Meditation. He will share the science behind meditation and its role in tackling India's mental health emergency. Thank you so much, Dr. Nader, for being with us. Let's start with what is the first thought that comes to your mind, since we're speaking on World Mental Health Day. When someone says mental health, has its meaning changed, significance grown over the years, Dr. Nader?
Yes, mental health expectation of what is healthy, what is expected changes with time, with what the media offers, expectations from the young people in particular, comparison to others, and then also comparison to what it means to be healthy or happy on the level of the mind, on the level of life and achievement. So yes, it is mental health and mental attitudes, mental understanding is always related to context in many ways. But there is an internal life of the individual that also is to be taken into consideration. And these values, they have variations, but they can also be having some constant values also of inner feeling, whether one is happy and flourishing or not feeling so good and anxious, etc.
Dr. Neda, what is the science behind meditation being an effective tool? So we talk about the concept more often than not, but what about the science? What about research?
If we want to start with the why, is that our body and mind have the ability to heal themselves. We know this if we cut ourselves, even physically on the skin, then there is a healing process. All we need is to take some rest and maybe clean up the wound, and then the body heals itself. When we run and we are tired and exhausted, we don't try to remove the tiredness from the muscles. What we do is we rest and then the body heals itself. It is the same thing. Mind and body are intimately connected. They are expressions on the field of consciousness and the field of being, which Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta expresses in a wonderfully complete way. And so what happens is, what we need is to go back to the self, go back to ourself, transcend, and go back, transcending meaning to go beyond the ripples on the surface. So if you say that the mind is like an ocean, active on its surface, the ocean and the waves are active on the surface, and more quiet in its depths, the mind can be acting on the ocean, on the surface, and if the waves are too active, they toss around the individual right and left, and everyone who is on the surface can become subject to the circumstances which are outside conditions. If you anchor yourself within yourself and dive deep into the ocean of consciousness, the mind settles down very deeply. It becomes very, very rested. And since the mind and the body are intimately connected, when the mind settles down, the body also settles down. And what happens is the healing process, the removal of stress, the ability to go back to one's original being, one's own innocence and fullness, at the same time maturity and clarity, happens spontaneously. So this is the why.
Dr. Neda, what about transcendental meditation? You spoke about that concept there and what it means. How is it practiced, A? And you often point to science and research that shows that transcendental meditation is effective, very effective for mental health and mind-body disorders. What's the science there?
We can say this as a theoretical idea, which is a nice thing to say, but what is beautiful is that the founder of transcendental meditation, by the way, transcendental meditation comes from the Vedic tradition, thousands of years, Bhagavad Dhyan, and the person who brought it to the West, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, has encouraged scientific research because he believed that whatever is mental, whatever is spiritual, has to have a real effect that we can measure. And so there are hundreds of scientific research studies, 600 that have been published in peer-reviewed journals, that show that those who practice transcendental meditation have less anxiety, less depression, they have greater resilience in front of situations in the environment, they express better behavior, greater compassion, greater relation with others, so behavior improves. anxiety decreases on the mental level. But this is also on the physical level. It has been shown cortisol level, which is related to stress, is reduced, breathing rate is settled, heart rate is settled, and that has very powerful long-term effects on well-being. For example, a 5-year study followed up people who have coronary artery disease or artery disease in general for how much they get accidents or cardiac accidents or brain problems, etc., due to clogging of the arteries and blood pressure. And we have found that people who practice transcendental meditation regularly 2 times a day, they have 66% less deaths, less accidents from all these diseases.
Dr. Neda, you spoke of this one thing. Let's go back to that one phrase, anchor yourself within anchor yourself within yourself is what you said. Do you see the younger generation pick on this concept that early on? What would your message to the Gen Z be on this World Mental Health Day?
Oftentimes the tradition has been that one goes to meditation after having done one's life work.
Yeah.
And then later on, meditation is for preparing for maybe the next life or preparing to go away. But what we have found, and that's very important, is that in order to achieve the basics of life, which means to achieve good relations, to achieve success in one's business, to succeed in one's studies, you need to develop your potential. It is not all about just information, gathering information. If you have a container that is small, like a glass, it will contain only that much water, let's say. You take a bigger container, it will contain even more. You take a pond or a pool, and it will contain much more. And you take the ocean, and it will contain all possible huge amounts of knowledge and information and capacities. So what I want to tell Gen Z is they have the ocean within them, and they shouldn't be satisfied with a small glass that is their little understanding of who they are from the surface, what people have told them, maybe what friends have told them or bullied them or whatever. They are the infinite ocean of being, the Atma, the self, unbounded pure being is within them. And if they can tap into that right away, even at the age of 5 or 6 years, they can start. And transcendental meditation we teach to even kids at 5 years. They don't do the same technique as the adults, but there is a technique also for children. Then you can start developing your full potential, and every aspect of life will be an aspect of success, of wholeness, of stability, of strength, and that is really important to realize.
Okay, you can actually start as young as 5 is what you're telling us. Dr. Neda, there's another phrase you use very often, which is system overload. This is where the problem begins. Now, what you call system overload might be downplayed by many as normal challenges of life. All this keeps happening every now and then. Are there clear signs of ailing mental health that we must read and be fully aware of?
There are people who are extremely resilient and capable. They go through difficult conditions and they move ahead. Oftentimes, great leaders, they face all kinds of situations. I take Prime Minister Modi ji. He deals with a wonderful parental role for the nation, for Bharat, for India, and he has to deal with the whole world. And so how much more overload can you imagine, And then it's really a question of how big we are. The ocean is able to absorb all the rivers, and even the mud that comes sometimes from the rivers, it settles down and the ocean remains in its great and grand dignity. So it all depends on how big or how small we are. We can get overloaded with a small thing, and we can not get overloaded with a mountain, with a huge thing. It really depends on our consciousness, our awareness, our ability to handle things. And so don't take it too far. Think of the day when you have slept well and you wake up fresh. Then even big things you can handle and resolve. But the day when you have not slept well and you are tired, even small things are irritating, they're overloading, they are difficult, you are angry, you are not happy, you're not able to deal with it. So even with this simple example, we can understand how if you dive deep within yourself, get settled within yourself, be the ocean that you really are within, then you come out powerful, strong, and no matter how big is the mountain, you can overcome its difficulties and you can sort things out. So it's all a question of perspective, of proportion, and when you are big, the things are small. When you are small, everything else is big.
How beautifully put, Dr. Neda. Thank you for being such an inspiration on this very important day. You briefly spoke about Prime Minister Narendra Modi. You've also met him. So did the two of you all speak on mental health, mental wellness? Was that discussed when you met?
We didn't necessarily specifically talk about mental health, but it was part of the youth and the need to find for them the best possible means of success. What I felt is Prime Minister Modi really plays a parental role for the nation. He is not there for, one aspect, even I would say not even one party or the other, although of course he has his own political requirements so that he can be there and can be helpful to the nation. He is parental role, which means I felt he is thinking of not only the nation, not only for Bharat, but how to be friend to all nations. There was used the term before Vishwa Guru, and he said he prefers Vishwa Mitra, maybe, the friend of all nations. And so that is really very touching and very deep wisdom from this great leader in our world.
Okay, I'm going to talk numbers a little, Dr. Neda. If we just talk about 2022, India reported 1.7 lakh suicide deaths. So if we just go by these numbers, are increasing number of suicides an indication of an impending mental pandemic?
Yeah, many analysis, they say, they call it mental health tsunami is coming, which means a huge wave that is almost unmanageable. And that is really a situation. The New York University, NYU, has done a research on Gen Z, and they have found that they're not really so adapted to the working environments, and they have some difficulties. And I do think that there is a problem due maybe to social media. In some way it's positive, but in some way it's also negative, because I feel that the Gen Z have lost trust in many institutions. So when you lose trust in the family institution, and the government institution, and the military institution, and the finance institution, and the communication institutions, etc., you feel lost as a young growing up person. And that is mainly because, again, there is dependence on the outside circumstances. And what we need is to anchor oneself again, to be within oneself, use one's own creativity, and can change the world and make it really a better place. And so that is really where we have to encourage and tell the young generation that life is blissful. The nature of life is bliss. All of this comes from bliss. Ananda Dyeva Kalvimani Bhutani Jayanti. All of this comes from bliss, from that wholeness. And the self is Satchit Ananda, is infinite pure bliss. It's only contacting that is needed.
Dr. Nader, we also must touch upon what more needs to be done. How do we look at mental health? How do we work more on this one issue, which is turning out to be a huge challenge as a nation? So tell us, Transcendental Meditation did a mega wellness conference recently. Is it true that an intense meditation by a few thousand people can cure a nation, can cure this problem overall?
Absolutely. We have done research on that. There are 116 research studies on the effect, collective effect of meditation on the collectivities. Means a small group, as we did in Hyderabad, 10,000 people came, 11,000. And it was short, it was very short, it was just a feeling, and the research has shown that it was effective. But what we have seen in many, many studies, that crime decreases, accidents of the road decrease, hospital admissions decrease, and many positive social indicators are seen when a certain critical amount of people practice this transcendental meditation together. Why is this so? It's because consciousness is primary, and that is really the Vedantic perspective, the Advaita Vedanta, that says that consciousness actually is all there is. And so when we act from the field of consciousness, when we say we transcend, we go to a field that we all share, which is our infinite inner self. So it's not just the ego, not just the ahamkar, but it's also the Atman, the self of everything and everyone. And then when you enliven that, you enliven it in yourself, and when a large group enough enlivens it, then it gets enlivened in society, and then everybody in society starts feeling better, and there is improvement and change in the right direction. The thing is that these groups have to be maintained. You know, if you bring a light and darkness disappears from the room, you cannot say, oh, now it's enough, I have the room, there is no more darkness, so let me stop the light, and then there will be no darkness. But if you stop the light, that means the absence of light. And so it's the same. We have to maintain these groups on a permanent basis so we can have a permanent effect.
Okay, lovely. So we're coming to the end of this wonderful conversation, Dr. Nader. I do want you to leave our audiences, our viewers this morning, with 3 words. 3 words you'd want people to keep in their consciousness. That's one word you've spoken of every few minutes. So tell us what those 3 words this World Mental Health Day be.
Life is bliss. Or the nature of life is bliss, is wholeness. And it is our birthright to live that fullness. Only we have to just access it within ourselves.
Wonderful. I think I'm going to take back the one thing that you've said so many times, which is anchor yourself within yourself. That's been my favorite through and through this conversation. Dr. Nader, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for joining us on this very special day for this very special conversation. Heading into a very short break. We're not done as yet. It is Friday. We've got your weekend planner lined up in just a bit.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Have been agreed upon today when the 2 prime ministers met, and of course under the climate partnership they're also talking about a tech climate partnership, about technology transfer when it comes to mitigating climate change. India and the UK will work together to accelerate clean energy transitions and mobilize climate finance. Now, trade of course was the big focus of the UK Prime Minister's commitments here in India. Terror was another one that featured quite prominently both during the meeting as well as in the joint statement that was put out. Both Prime Ministers unequivocally and strongly condemned terrorism and violent extremism in all its forms. They have also called for zero tolerance to terrorism and concerted international efforts to combat it. They've also agreed to counter radicalization and violent extremism, particularly Khalistani extremism, although no specific extraditions have been spoken about. But the UK also emphasized its commitment to strengthening bilateral and multilateral cooperation in the fight against terror, particularly at multilateral bodies like the United Nations, whether it's the Security Council or at the FATF. The UK Prime Minister also condemned in the strongest possible terms the April 2025 terrorist attack in Pahalgam and agreed to strengthen cooperation to take concerted actions against globally proscribed terrorists and their sponsors.
The activities of Khalistani extremists, yes, it is a subject that had come up in the discussions in July. It was flagged again during the discussions held today, and Prime Minister emphasized that radicalism and violent extremism had no space in democratic societies, and in particular should not be allowed to use the freedoms or abuse the freedoms provided by democratic societies, and there was need to move against them within the legal frameworks that are available to both sides.
I want to go across to Siddhant Mishra, who's joining us live from Mumbai, where, of course, it's been a packed day, the official day of bilateral meetings between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Starmer. So the big takeaway on the terror front, the combating cross-border terror front, Siddhant, seems to be that there was explicit condemnation of what happened in Pahalgam. Also, the UK pledging to work closely with India when it comes to taking on cross-border terrorism, particularly when it comes to international institutions and using international institutions to combat it, the UN or the FATF. How significant is this?
Well, Zaka, there was this charm and spark in this relationship which was missing from last 1 decade. Also, the reason is political instability in United Kingdom. Now you look at the trajectory of India-US relationship, India-France relationship, India-Japan relationship, India-Russia relationship. In fact, you will see defense cooperation, you will see cooperation in critical tech, you will see cooperation in many sectors. But this one relationship, did not move an inch in last 1 decade. This was perhaps the reason that this visit is being called as a historic visit, because this visit has now given this relationship its charm, its spark back. Free trade agreement has been signed. Technology Securities Initiative has been launched. In fact, there has been 10 outcomes in field of outcome documents in field of tech, healthcare, semiconductor, critical minerals, etc., etc. Also, Zaka, defense is something which is very important because so far, out of India's total defense purchases, the contribution of UK is only 3%. So here also UK is lagging behind. Now you compare it with United States, you compare it with France, you compare it with Russia. UK is far behind. There is no as such defense collaboration, despite India opening up its defense market for private players, despite India setting its Atmanirbhar goals and spending lots and lots of money. But UK couldn't compete with the players in America, and France. So now the two major announcements have happened in the joint statement. One is the missile which you just mentioned, and the other is they are coming up with some kind of electronic the naval Indian naval ships. So no, for me, it's the biggest takeaway from this particular visit of Keir Starmer.
All right, I also want to go across to Sanjay Suri, who's joining us from London. So Sanjay, this is coming at a time when, of course, for the British Prime Minister, he has to show this as a big win back home. Of course, there is also this whole consideration around trade and the whole tariffs that are going on with Donald Trump. And the UK has been successful in sort of softening the blow. I think it has the lowest tariff rates for any country in the world at 10%. India still hasn't clinched that trade deal with the United States. Where does Starmer's visit sort of fit in this ever-changing sort of lexicon around trade at a time when in the West, whether it's in the UK or in the US, the mood certainly seems to be anti-trade, and may I say even anti-immigrant to a great extent.
You know, Zaka, it appears as seen from Britain not to fit in at all. The view from here is that this visit has been some sort of a working picnic in Mumbai. You might almost think there are two Keir Starmers, one that the British media is looking at, another the one who has been in Mumbai. The only interest in the reportage around this visit has been remarks that Keir Starmer made in response to domestic concerns that were put to him. There was an issue about the case against two persons accused of passing secrets to China. That case has been dropped. He has been confronted on that. Was the Labour government responsible for cover-up or at least not pursuing it energetically enough? There have been questions about illegal migration, digital ID, the question of Gaza, whether Trump should get a Nobel Prize, Starmer's views on that. It is all this that has been the stuff of the reporting here. It's about Starmer facing domestic issues from another location. So whether the deals with India, and there have been some announcements, for example, with universities and more access for British universities, and in fact for them to set up in India, and there have been other outcomes as well, and there have been issues in defense that Siddhant was just telling us about. All that appears to be absolutely of no interest here. So if the intention was to build a new narrative in support of Starmer so that he is seen as someone who has delivered goods and delivered deals for the UK and an important trade deal, that is not at the moment reflected in the popular discourse or the popular narrative here in Britain.
All right,
So this just in, CNN News 18 sources confirm an airstrike was carried out in a safe house in Kabul targeting TTP chief Noor Wali Mahsood. While Mahsood survived, his son was killed. Top intelligence sources also confirmed that 30 people mostly affiliated with the TTP were also killed in airstrikes. Explosions and gunfire were heard with fighter jets spotted over the city. Afghan sources suggest a cross-border strike, possibly from Pakistan. This attack comes after Pakistan's
Welcome back, and well, it's that time of the week again where screens and stages compete for your attention. From mystery thrillers and sci-fi epics in theatres to streaming dramas and live concerts, this weekend has something for every mood. So let's roll into Thank God It's Friday with Kaveri Gupta, who's got the full lineup of what to watch and where to be. Take a look.
Hello everyone, I'm Kaveri Gupta back with your favorite weekly dose of Thank God It's Friday, where we tell you exactly what to do this weekend. So grab your popcorn and let's give this weekend a playful spin because it's showtime. Moviegoers, this Friday is serving you mystery, mind-bending tech and raw emotional stories. Whether you are in the mood for thrillers or futuristic drama, theatre's got you covered. First up is Lord Curzon Ki Haveli. Radhika Duggal and Arjun Mathur headline this gripping mystery thriller. What starts as a dinner party joke about a corpse in a trunk quickly spirals into a shocking, life-altering night. Next is The Smashing Machine. Fresh off winning the Silver Lion at Venice, this intense drama tells the real-life story of MMA fighter Mark Kerr, his battle with addiction and his complicated relationship with his girlfriend. Last but not the least is Tron Ares, a sequel to Tron Legacy. This sci-fi epic dives into AI's first contact with humans through a program named Ares. With sleek visuals and thought-provoking tech themes, is the one for the sci-fi fans. But if you are in a stay-at-home mood, your screens are ready with some dark thrillers, mythological wars and chilling true crime. On Jio Hotstar is the Neena murder case. Konkona Sen Sharma plays ACP Sayukta Das, drawn into the haunting murder of a teen girl, a gripping Indian remake of the killing. This one soaked in suspense, secrets and emotional depth. On Netflix is Kurukshetra, an animated retelling of the Mahabharata through the eyes of 18 warriors. Directed by Ujjan Ganguly, this mytho series blends tradition with emotion in a fresh new format. Next is chilling documentary on Kerry Rawson uncovering the truth about her father. Streaming on Netflix again is My Father, the BTK Killer, with real footage and raw reflections. This one stays with you long after the credits roll. Now, if you are more of a catch the events in real life kind of a person, we've got you some musical legends lined up. Legendary singer Shaan's Infinity Tour happening tomorrow in Kolkata. Celebrate 30 years of timeless hits with Shaan in his home turf. A night of nostalgia, music and magic. And in something different, we have Chalman Vrindavan featuring Achyuta Gopi. Step into the soul of Vrindavan with Grammy-nominated Achyuta Gopi, Kirtan, devotion and an atmosphere like none other. Well, that's a wrap for me this week on Thank God It's Friday. I'll be back with lots more next Friday with more movies, streaming gems and events you don't want to miss. Till then, stay safe, stay sizzling and stay ever happy. Bye-bye.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
So this just in, CNN News 18 sources confirm an airstrike was carried out in a safe house in Kabul targeting TTP chief Nur Wali Mahsood. While Mahsood survived, his son was killed. Top intelligence sources also confirmed that 30 people mostly affiliated with the TTP were also killed in airstrikes. Explosions and gunfire were heard with fighter jets spotted over the city. Afghan sources suggest a cross-border strike, possibly from Pakistan. This attack comes after Pakistan's defense minister accused Afghanistan of sheltering terrorists. CNN News 18 accesses his voice note after the attack, where he's confirming that he is in Pakistan and he's safe currently.
Sir, I just want to know about the deadly attack in Kabul by two fighter jets. Can you explain that? Yes, thank you for joining, Mr. Suhail Shaheen. Sir, I just want to know about the deadly attack in Kabul by two fighter jets. Can you explain that?
I don't know about this. I don't have any details. I just heard some explosion. The statement has been issued by Zabihullah Mujahid saying that there was an explosion. So no report of any casualty. The investigation is underway to find out.
And sir, this lot of reports are coming that they have Pakistan has attacked Nur Wali Khan Mahsood of TTP, and later on TTP chief has issued a audio statement that he is surviving. But multiple blasts have happened. This is confirmed, and we have video records of that. Can you please?
No, I can have any comment regarding this until the investigation team report their find out what they find. So far there is no statement from the government side. Only the spokesman, Mr. Zabihullah Mujahid, said there was explosion. The investigation team is working to find out So we will be waiting until the report.
So you are not accepting that any attack has happened?
I don't know. Only we heard explosion. So
Because
I can say anything.
because Pakistan side is saying that at least 30 TTP people have been killed in Kabul.
So I don't know about the claims of other countries or people. So I will be waiting for the investigation report of the concerned authorities.
ټول مجاهدین ورونو ته السلام علیکم ورحمت الله. د سلام په توفه وړاندې کولو نه بعد تاسو ته دغه اطمینان درکوم چې الحمدلله موږ روغ رموټ یو به هیڅ مشکل نشته دی او په خپل قبایلی خاور باندې الحمدلله شتون لرو او د الله په فضل سره هیڅ مشکل نشته دی. دشمن دغه ټول پروپاګاندا چې کوي دا ټول دروغ دي، دا ټول بې ځای خبره دي. دوی چې مسلمانانو ته کوم تکلیف ورسوي الله پاک ته د دوی مؤاخذه په خپل د مجاهدینو په لاس باندې هم وکړي، په خپل د هم وکړي. والسلام علیکم ورحمت الله وبرکاته.
So we have CNN News 18's Anand Narasimhan joining us live right.
Welcome back on World Mental Health Day. We now go across to a voice that speaks from experience. Ira Khan, daughter of actor Amir Khan, shares how she came to talk about her mental health in public and why it matters. We leave you with this all-important message. Thanks for watching The Breakfast Club. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.
जब मेरी बीमारी थोड़ी सी काबू में आई और मुझे पता चला कि पता तो था पर मुझे अंदर से एहसास हुआ कि देश में बहुत स्टिग्मा है, लोगों में बहुत स्टिग्मा है, विदेश में भी। और मैं एक नाटक कर रही थी और मेरी प्रोड्यूसर ने मुझे बोला था कि AR रहमान ने उनके एंग्जाइटी के बारे में आके बात की थी और उससे बहुत लोगों को फ़ायदा हुआ था।
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
So this just in, CNN News 18 sources confirm an airstrike was carried out in a safe house in Kabul targeting TTP chief Noor Wali Mahsood. While Mahsood survived, his son was killed. Top intelligence sources also confirmed that 30 people mostly affiliated with the TTP were also killed in airstrikes. Explosions and gunfire were heard with fighter jets spotted over the city. Afghan sources suggest a cross-border strike, possibly from Pakistan. This attack comes after Pakistan's defense minister accused Afghanistan of sheltering terrorists. CNN News 18 accesses his voice note after the attack, where he's confirming that he is in Pakistan and he's safe currently.
Sir, I just want to know about the deadly attack in Kabul by 2 fighter jets. Can you explain that? Yes, thank you for joining, Mr. Suhail Shaheen. Sir, I just want to know about the deadly attack in Kabul by 2 fighter jets. Can you explain that?
I don't know about this. I don't have any details. I just heard some explosion. The statement has been issued by Zabihullah Mujahid saying that there was explosion. So no report of any casualty. The investigation is underway to find out.
And sir, this lot of reports are coming that they have Pakistan has attacked Nur Wali Khan Masood of TTP, and later on TTP chief has issued a audio statement that he is surviving. But multiple blasts have happened. This is confirmed, and we have video records of that. Can you please?
No, I can have any comment regarding this until the investigation team report their find out what they find. So far there is no statement from the government side. Only the spokesman, Mr. Zabihullah Mujahid, said there was explosion. The investigation team is working to find out. So we will be waiting until the report.
So you are not accepting that any attack has happened?
I don't know. Only we heard explosion. So
because
I can say anything.
Because Pakistan side is saying that at least 30 TTP people have been killed in Kabul.
So I don't know about the claims of other countries or people. So I will be waiting for the investigation report of.
Good morning, you're watching CNN News 18. I am Arunima. Seat-sharing talks are intensifying in Bihar as both alliances iron out differences to put up their best show ahead of campaigning. Details up ahead in the show, but first, the headlines. Pakistan carries out airstrikes in Kabul targeting the TTP chief Nur Wali Masood. TTP chief survives attack, son killed, 30 civilians also lose their lives in the airstrikes. India's top drug regulator, CDSCO, initiates a nationwide audit of cough syrup manufacturers. Srisan Pharma owner said to be brought to Madhya Pradesh on transit remand for further probe. NDA and Mahagathbandhan hold crucial discussions on seat allocations for Bihar polls. Prashant Kishore reveals candidates for 51 seats and hints at contesting from Raghopur in the upcoming elections. Phase 1 of the Gaza ceasefire deal takes effect as Israeli cabinet approves peace plan to release captives. Prime Minister Netanyahu confirms the halt of offensive operations in Gaza. Mamata Banerjee attacks West Bengal Chief Electoral Officer Manoj Agarwal, accusing him of intimidation and overreaction. Karnataka's Ramnagar MLA Iqbal Hussain continues to defy Congress orders, openly supporting Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar's bid for the Chief Minister's post in the state. Let's begin with that story that is still developing in our neighborhood. Explosions rocked Kabul as Pakistani fighter jets reportedly targeted Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan's safe houses in the city. An airstrike hit a safe house aiming at TTP chief Nur Wali Masood. While Masood survived, his son was killed. Top intelligence sources confirmed that 30 TTP-affiliated individuals died in the strikes. Taliban spokesperson assured the public on X that the explosion caused no damage and an investigation is underway. Gunfire and jet sounds were heard, suggesting a possible cross-border strike likely from Pakistan. This follows Pakistan's defense minister's accusation of Afghanistan sheltering terrorists. The incident further escalates tensions between the two countries. After the attack, CNN News 18 obtained a voice note from TTP chief Masood confirming his safety in Pakistan. Listen in.
ټول مجاهدین ورونو ته السلام علیکم ورحمت الله. د سلام په تحفه وړاندې کولو نه بعد تاسو ته دغه اطمینان درکوم چې الحمدلله موږ روغ رموټ یو به هیڅ مشکل نشته دی او په خپل قبایلی خاور باندې الحمدلله شتون لرو او د الله په فضل سره هیڅ مشکل نشته دی. د دشمن دغه ټول پروپاګاندا چې کوي دا ټول دروغ دي. دا ټول بې ځای خبره دي. دوی چې مسلمانانو ته کوم تکلیف ورسوي الله پاک ته د دوی مؤاخذه په خپل د مجاهدینو په لاس باندې هم وکړي په خپل د هم وکړي. والسلام علیکم ورحمت الله وبرکاته.
And CNN News 18's group editor Manoj Gupta spoke to Ambassador of Afghanistan to Qatar. He talks about the details of the attack, confirming that the TTP chief was the target.
Sir, I just want to know about the deadly attack in Kabul by two fighter jets. Can you explain that? Yes, thank you for joining, Mr. Suhail Shaheen. Sir, I just want to know about the deadly attack in Kabul by two fighter jets. Can you explain that?
I don't know about this. I don't have any details. I just heard some explosion to explosion. The statement has been issued by Zabihullah Mujahid saying that there was an explosion. So no report of any casualty. The investigation is underway to find out.
And sir, this lot of reports are coming that they have Pakistan has attacked Nur Wali Khan Masood of TTP, and later on TTP chief has issued a audio statement that he is surviving. But multiple blasts have happened. This is confirmed, and we have video records of that. Can you please?
No, I can have any comment regarding this until the investigation team report their find out what they find. So far there is no statement from the government side. Only the spokesman, Mr. Zabihullah Mujahid, said there was explosion. The investigation team is working to find out. So we will be waiting until the report.
So you are not accepting that any attack has happened?
I don't know. Only we heard explosion. So
because
I can say anything.
Because Pakistan side is saying that at least 30 TTP people have been killed in Kabul.
So I don't know about the claims of other countries or people. So I will be waiting for the investigation report of the concerned authorities.
जिस मट्टी में से उनको फायदा मिल रहा है, जिस